All right. The first official, I think it's the first official thing we've seen for Wonder Woman 1984 so far, period, poster-wise. The first official teaser poster for that movie was spotted June 3rd, which I think was yesterday. I kind of lose track of my time or date sometimes on recording these, at the Licensing Expo in Las Vegas. And I think it looks great. I mean, I like the tone and the vibe. I mean, it takes place in the 80s, and so I think they're going for that whole like 80s big hair, glamour, and like day glow kind of thing, which is great. I hope that what they also do is, because it's an 80s movie, that they put some like 80s styled like themes in the soundtrack, like some 80s styled synth or whatever. I know Hans Zimmer's doing the soundtrack, which is great because he's the one, him and Junkie XL created that iconic Wonder Woman theme that we saw premiere in BVS. So he is continuing his stamp, putting his stamp on the character in terms of her score and soundtrack, which I think is great. But I hope he makes room for some, cool 80s inspired tunes. I think people would get a kick out of that. I would. But anyways, speaking of that whole 80s day glow kind of thing, it's all over. We've got the 84 logo in the background. It's, got that style, with the thin lines, like the thin, like neon style lines that glow, or in that kind of, that have that kind of vibe going on. We saw a lot of that in the 80s, and it's here. She herself looks like she is glowing. She's like kneeling down, or I don't know what you call that pose, crouching down, sitting up or whatever, with, the same outfit she wore in the first Wonder Woman. But here, they're definitely emphasizing the glow, with that light they have on her. That's probably a lot of Photoshop anyway, to, heighten up the whole glow thing, and glowing is very 80s. And we've seen, like, I saw it, but I didn't put it on this channel, the Wonder Woman mall scene. You probably heard of that Wonder Woman mall clip where she's fighting those guys in the mall to save that little girl. That actually premiered last year at Comic-Con. They showed it in Hall H, and it was just a Hall H only thing. They didn't release it online. That's why you didn't see it, and you can see it now with people leaking it. But I saw that, and that was very 80s, because I was in Hall H, it was her in the mall and stuff. So, like, they're going, like, 80s at the wazoo. Like, it doesn't just take place in the 80s, but I think, like, just they're gonna like really emphasize that a lot, with the movie itself. I think she looks beautiful. Gal Gadot was a beautiful woman. Even at the bottom, I don't think that's part of the poster, but there's that blue light coming from the bottom. I think that's the lighting they have in the room. Or maybe that is coming from the poster. I don't know, or it's just the lighting. But even that accentuates or emphasizes the whole glow 80s day glow angle. And I also think that with this movie taking place in the earlier, close in the mid-80s, so far from what we've seen online and, the pictures, the stills and stuff, it does look like this movie is going to be heavily inspired by the Linda Carter late 70s, early 80s TV show. And that show had a big, like 80s kind of vibe. Even though I think it debuted in the late 70s, it carried on into the early 80s. And I think this show is going to be heavily inspired by that in terms of tone and what's going to be happening in it and the way that Wonder Woman's going to act. It'll be like very faithful, I think, to the show. I mean, I know some people think the Wonder Woman show, the TV show, is like silly or whatever, but it is one of the reasons why the character is iconic. Before Gal Gadot came along, when people thought of Wonder Woman, they thought of Linda Carter, live action. And so I think this is going to be an homage to that show. Patty Jenkins herself, I think, she is someone who came of age in that era. I think she, I don't know how old she is, but I think she was like a young woman or a teenager in like the late 70s, early 80s. So I think that this is going to be, she's going to use a lot of what she knows, her knowledge of being, someone who was, an adult in that area, a young adult, to inform this movie. I think that the Linda Carter TV show and that time period were very important to Patty Jenkins in terms of her, development as a person and in her life. And I think she's going to use all of that. The Linda Carter TV show, her experience with the 80s, just to like make this like so 80s. It'll be like an 80s OD when you watch this movie. And I think that it'll be pretty cool to see visually. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to the channel because I appreciate your viewership, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.